Arthausen, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
I am Francisca Jorge, and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Susan Leemans, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom. Yeah.
My name is Zainab Samas, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hey guys, my name is Sasha Vickery, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hi, my name is Lloyd Harris, and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Jan Faria, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Yes.
Take one. Well done.
Hi, my name is Jasmine Paulini, and I'm a friend of the show.
Wow, Jasmine, you got it in one time.
Ready? Play.
Well, hello there. Welcome to WTA Weekly. And I'm very excited on this one. I always have a good time with Mert, but it's the first time we're doing a draw preview together. And so I am very much looking forward to hearing your thoughts on looking ahead to a tournament and analysing how things go, rather than necessarily looking back on things. But Mert, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine, and it's always a delight to be on with you too, Nick. And I'm sure we'll have a great discussion. But I always look forward to my talks with you and Chief John, by the way, in the background too. So delighted to be here.
Oh yeah, I'm glad to hear it. And it's always great having you on. I always get really excited when I hear that you can make it. So this episode, for those of you who maybe are a bit less familiar with the show, maybe you are a new subscriber. When we do a WTA Weekly before a Slam, we'll generally go through the draw. By the way, I have to say, full respect for that T-shirt there, Mert. I'm not sure how long ago that photo was, but
that was,
yeah.
I believe that was like 7-8 years ago. And yeah, that's a Voyager T-shirt. I don't want to give too much away, but I'm a bit of a Star Trek nerd. So that's why I got that T-shirt at the time, although it didn't have anything to do with the Star Trek Voyager show. But hey, it's there. So
yeah, well, absolutely. But yeah, the minute I saw that, I was like, yeah, I'm hoping that means you're a Star Trek fan, because
I am a Trekkie. Yes,
I have grown up with that show as well. So big fan. Yes, to people asking in the chat, yes, Voyager is Captain Janeway. So
correct.
it feels strong, powerful, assertive woman, and so that's an appropriate segue into what we're going to be talking about on this show.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so before we kind of dive into things, so we usually take a quarter by quarter breakdown of how the draw looks, and we've had obviously a few days to kind of sit on things and like reflect. But I wanted to get your kind of reflections, Mert, on the big picture before we kind of look into the nitty-gritty of the draw. And we were talking before the show about how really it's hard to pick out a favorite. In my mind, there's 20, maybe even 25 players that you could call realistic title contenders here. And that might come out in my thoughts on the draw. I don't know whether you have a different perspective on it. Maybe your list is kind of smaller or considerably larger.
No, Nick, you're making a good point. I could easily expand my list. I'm sure. I don't know if I can expand it to 25, but I could easily do it to 15 or 20, or maybe with a little push 25. Of course, some of these names will have a low probability of winning, but it's not one of these situations where you have 5 or 6 names that can win it, and the rest virtually have close to zero chance. This is not that tournament, and so I agree with you completely. I do have 4 names for me that have a better chance than others, but not by much. And then when I go down to 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th names, I still think they have a decent chance. And then low probability names come later. But yeah, I could push it up to 20, I'm sure.
Okay, so we're going to discover who those 4 names are over the draw. I also have 4 names in my mind that are probably slightly ahead. Anyone who's watched the Power Ranking show, which is on the screen there, may know which 4 names those are. So I'm interested to see how we both kind of discover that as we work our way through the draw. So yeah, Mert, how you happy to dive in?
Sure, let's do it.
All right, let's go. So quarter number 1. So let's kind of start the quarter and then look forward. So Mert, what are your kind of key first round matches, like maybe the ones that you're most excited about from this section? So this would be Sabalenka down to Keys.
Okay, so in this section there are several interesting first round encounters. One that I would like to point out, of course, and I'm willing to bet that a lot of people do the same too, is the match between Kessler and Vondrousova, two players who are in form in this section, and they end up playing each other. It's a hard pick because for me, Vondrousova would be a slight favorite because of her previous Wimbledon title, plus the pre-Wimbledon grass court title, in which she beat some terrific players. So Vondrousova is a slight favorite, but then again, you got Kessler, who's had a great last 12 months. And correct me if I'm wrong, did she win 2 titles in the last 12 months, or did she win a third one too? I'm not sure.
I think it's 3 in 12 months. She's won 2 this season.
Yes, there you go. So that's a very good first round encounter. Although I would again put Vondrousova as a slight favorite in that one. Another one that I'm interested in, Nick, and this is not to say that I'm looking for an upset here by any means, but there are 4 of these matches where I feel like a heavy favorite or a seeded player is playing an unseeded player who's coming in hot. And one of them is in this section here, and that's Brandstein against Sabalenka. Now, this is not to say Brandstein is going to upset by any means, but having seen what Brandstein has accomplished in qualifying, beating Boisson, Andreescu, followed by Sherban, and all 3-set victories. But she's coming in, probably with a very high confidence. But okay, of course, she's going to take on Sabalenka. So I'm interested in these types of matchups, not necessarily because I'm looking for upsets, but because I'm interested to see how the underdog will perform coming in hot to a match, but yet being a clear underdog in the very first round of a slam. It's a whole new ground for them. And it tells me a lot about a player's ability to adjust from small stage to big stage, or being in form and being on top of the cloud. And yet all of a sudden you're facing someone who can bring you down to earth very fast.
I like this you've said here. So first of all, Vondrousova Kessler, completely agreed. That is very much one of my circled matches from this section. It feels like a mini final. Like if this happened as like a Berlin versus Nottingham playoff final, this is basically what it is. I agree with you. Vondrousova is the slight favorite given her previous Wimbledon history and maybe also the caliber of players she beat. And Kessler's, although she's won a few tour titles, she's not really proven herself in a slam yet. Going back to your main point about Sabalenka and Brandstein, I'm very glad that you're also excited about this because you mentioned Brandstein's running qualifying, and like she was like the big upset maker in that draw, as you've pointed out. But also she qualified for Rosmalen and then beat Samsonova, the top seed in round 1. So she's feeling very, very good on grass right now. As I said, I mean, like I think Sabalenka might be a bit too much, but I could see Brandstein maybe going up an early break or something in the first set, or like being a little bit irritating to Sabalenka for the bit before Sabalenka finds a way to win through. But I think that the crowds on court 1 on opening Monday, which is when they're going to be playing, they're going to be the first match on court 1, will probably get themselves a real underdog to get behind, and she's really going to fight for it. So I'm glad you're excited about that first round too. I mean, like I've got like 8 matches here, so I probably won't read all of them off, but you've got 2 of them. I'm going to read the one I'm probably most excited about from this section, which is Paula Badosa and Katie Boulter, because that's second match on centre court after the Alcaraz match on Monday. And first of all, they've both got big games. Boulter has a history of getting some big underdog wins at Wimbledon. Now, if Badosa's not healthy, then that might be less of an exciting match. That Boulter has a big advantage there, but if not, I could see that being a real battle and a really entertaining match. So, yeah, I'm excited.
I actually picked. I personally picked on my personal draw. I picked Boulter to win that one.
Yeah, I would too. I think on balance, just because of the health question mark around Badosa right now.
Yes, that was in my mind also. Yeah, and what else? Nick, come at me. I'm curious to see what else you
my
have.
other one. Okay, I'll just rattle off For a purely British perspective, Raducanu Zhu.
Yes.
I am interested in seeing Mertens versus Kvitova. I think that could be quite a fun, scrappy match. They're both quite smart players in the way that they play, and I'm interested to see whether they can move each other around the court well. I'm interested to see how Hannah Klugman's Grand Slam debut goes against Leylah Fernandez. Tough draw, especially since Fernandez, I think, is a really exciting player when she's on. One of my favorites to watch.
Okay. Can I interrupt you there for just a second? I'm interested in that match also, Hannah Klugman, Leylah Fernandez, for the exact same reasons I mentioned with Sabalenka and Brandstein. Again, here we go. Klugman is a big prospect. I think a very promising prospect, and I'm interested to see how she will perform against Fernandez. Not necessarily because I'm predicting an upset, or it might very well be, but it just interests me. These situations where a youngster, up and coming youngster, or a very hot player coming into the tournament having to face a seeded player like this. So this is of high interest to me also.
Yeah, I agree. I hope I can catch some of it, especially since I haven't had a chance to re-watch Klugman play yet. I mean, I've watched her a little bit in like juniors or whatnot, but it's very different to watching.
She has improved a lot. She has improved a lot in the last, I would say, 12 to 16 months. And I have high expectations of her in the future. So again, this is why I'm interested in seeing it. But going back to Raducanu for a second, I know she has a bit of a back issue, but if that doesn't bother her in this tournament coming up right here, I don't feel that she's her pre-grassroots season results are bad at all. And
you can't say they're bad at all. Like
yeah. So I think she can do well here with the crowd behind her. I don't know how she would handle that situation. It's just that she's in a really tough section. When I say section, I'm talking about just those 8 players. She's in a tough section of the draw. Her first round is first of all a country woman, so it's not going to be a cake on a plate. And then if she wins, she plays the winner of Vondroshova and Kessler. I mean, and then there's Sabalenka third round. So she's got a rough ride, but I'm hoping that her back is not an issue, and we get to see how she can manage this section of the draw. What comes out of it for her?
Yeah, I would agree with you on Raducanu. Like, if she's healthy, she's going to be a problem for whoever she plays, including the winner of Vondroshova Kessler, which I think is going to be a big match, especially if she plays Vondroshova. That's got centre court written all over it, because the British crowd's going to be very much interested in how that one plays out. And then potential third round with Sabalenka, like ultimate test, right? Yeah, she's got to be healthy for this. If she's not, then it's just unfortunate. Hopefully it's one of those things that can pass. But I agree with you. Her quarterfinal run in Queens and being very close to quarterfinals in Eastbourne as well. Like, she's getting match wins regularly now, which is good for her and why she's kind of back in the top 40.
Yeah.
So,
and there are some good players who can play on grass just fine. Great Minen is in this section. She's facing Gadecki, who's also a good player on fast courts. Kimberly Burrell is playing Donna Vikic first round. Boy, that's they better have lots of cans of balls reserve there. Some balls may explode in that one. But looking down all the way down, you got Danilovic, and then you have Madison Keys, and unless you want to mention a couple of more things on first round matchups, I was going to make a point about the favorites on this. But do you have anything more to say on those?
One last first round match, which I'm genuinely interested in. But I know one of our regular commenters on the channel, Ghosty, is going to be marking this one as well. And that's Peyton Stearns against Laura Siegemund, because that's going to be, I think that could be a lot of fun. They're both kind of real match players, I reckon, and they're both great fighters. So I think that could be a lot of fun. And Peyton Stearns on grass, I mean, not necessarily proven, but has potential. So that's one more match I'm looking forward to. So I was going to throw that out there. But yeah, I'll kind of come to you. Yeah. So this section, who are your favourites to come through, or is there only one favourite?
Well, two of my favorites, two of my top 4 or 5 to win the title on my personal list are in this section right here, and that's Arina Sabalenka and Madison Keys. So they're going to, if they end up playing quarterfinals, which I hope they do, just from the standpoint of that would be a dynamite matchup. It could be very entertaining. So if they end up playing each other in the quarterfinals, I'll be tuned into that from the 5-minute warm up all the way to the handshake at the net. So that would be that's why I'm going to put those two in the quarterfinals, Sabalenka and Madison Keys. And I feel like the winner of that match could go on and win the title, and I would not be surprised. So despite all those first round matchups that we just talked about, I think ultimately this will be a Keys Sabalenka quarterfinal here.
Your assessment's the same as mine, Mert. I do think that's if that happens, then they're going to be, whoever wins that is going to be the title favorite, especially since they'll have had the tougher section overall, tougher half overall to deal with if they got to the final. And so on the power ranking that I did pre-tournament, I put Sabalenka at 1 and Keys at 3, and and they were very close.
Same page there, yeah. And just to kind of preview it without giving names, my two others in my personal top 4 are also in the same section. In fact, one of them may not even make it to the quarterfinals, so we'll get there pretty soon.
Yeah, potentially unlikely. So we'll get down there towards the end of the draw, I suspect. I think you and I probably have the same idea there.
You suspect correctly, yeah.
So yeah, but Sabalenka and Keys, yeah, I agree, are there, and they're both players with unfinished business at Wimbledon. Like, think about it. Keys retires like one game. Maybe not retires a game away, but gets injured a game away from beating Jasmine Paolini.
Correct.
I think
yes.
She would have been a heavy favorite to make the final if she'd beaten Paolini.
That was hard to watch, right, Nick? I mean, I still remember that. It was just awful to watch the way she was suffering there at the end.
Yeah, and then Sabalenka didn't play at all last year when she would have gone in one of the red hot favorites. And given the way the draw played out, who knows? Barbora Krejcikova could have beaten either one of them, because I think they were both in the same half, so we wouldn't have got them in the final. We probably got them in the semi-final, if I remember how the draw fell. But both of them are like big kind of what ifs. Like, they could have won that tournament last year. So they're coming in with unfinished business, and I'm excited to see sort of how that motivates them. And we know Sabalenka turns up for every tournament, especially a Grand Slam. She will, if she doesn't make the final, it's usually a surprise. And then I've been really impressed with Madison Keys these last 2 Grand Slams that she's played. Obviously, she won the Australian, but I thought she really locked in at the French up until the quarterfinals, where it got a little bit messy against Goff, and even then she could have won that match.
Yes.
Like, she kind of saw herself as the favorite and played with confidence, and I think she'll do that again this Wimbledon.
I agree with you there. She's definitely a name to watch, Keys.
Yeah. I'm just going to throw kind of a few dark horse, like other people who might upset things a little bit if maybe things don't quite go their way. So I'm going to throw out there, we've talked about Rybakina and Vondrousova. Could they pull off some upsets? That's a really tough section, as you say, but that could be a nasty third round for Sabalenka. And then you've got Alina Svitolina, who's kind of lurking in this section as well.
Yes.
She's having a very, very good season, very consistent. She's got some big wins. She's such a fighter. She just seems to come up against really, really good players like a Sabalenka or a Swiatek when she doesn't want to.
Yeah, she's my pick to play 4th round against Sabalenka here. And I don't expect an easy match for Sabalenka either, even if she does beat her.
Sabalenka really does not have an easy draw here.
No, she doesn't.
This is that again plays into the craziness that Wimbledon can give us year on year. So
yes.
I'm excited for that.
I mean, you got last year's semifinalists here too, in Donna Vikic. So that's another. It's just a really interesting section. But again, it's one of these sections where I can more comfortably pick out 2 quarterfinalists in Sabalenka and Keys than I can in the other quarters of the draw.
Which, let's get to those now. So quarter number 2, and I have no clear favorites in this section at all.
Yes.
So we'll get to that in a minute, but let's stick to a bit of a structure here. Let's do round ones that you're looking forward to from this quarter. So that would be, again, we're going from Paolini all the way down to who's the other seed? It was Zhang.
Yes, my two picks here for first rounds that interest me. I have a couple of second possible rounds that are very interesting to me also, but sticking with first rounds here, one would be Stramkova versus Haddad Maia. Haddad Maia's form is nothing to write home about right at the moment, and Stramkova's on the other, in contrast, has a lot to write home about in terms of her form. So I'm actually thinking about a possible upset there, Stramkova versus Haddad Maia, and I'm also interested in handling how Stramkova handles Haddad Maia's game, because Stramkova likes patterns from the baseline a lot and likes to dictate points, and Haddad Maia is a smart player who does not, who knows how to pick the opponent's weaknesses, or who knows how to keep the opponent away from preferred patterns in baseline rallies. So that's a matchup that I'm interested in seeing from a tactical point of view. And the other match that interests me is Putintseva versus Anisimova. Can Putintseva derail Anisimova's game? Because Anisimova usually does one thing and she does that very well, and Putintseva is quite good in mixing up. So those two matches would be my two choices to see how it turns out. And just from a curiosity standpoint, because I'm just wondering what version of her we'll see. Ostapenko versus Sonay Kartal, because Ostapenko could very well reach the semifinals from this whole section, and yet she could also lose in the first round to Sonay Kartal, who's a super solid player. Yes.
Okay. You've picked out like 3 of my 4 matches that I'm really excited about from the section. So Haddad Maia, Stramkova. It's hard to call that one, especially since Haddad Maia actually had a decent run in Bad Homburg. She beats Svitolina in a tough match.
Yes.
Quarterfinals there, but Stramkova's been getting consistent wins everywhere she's played. So I like how that matchup could go. I do think that could be a long one.
Nick, thank you actually for correcting me on that one. I completely forgot about Haddad Maia's win over Svitolina. That is a good one. Yes.
Putintseva and Anisimova, I think that one is interesting on paper because obviously they're both big fighters. Putintseva is not having a great season at the moment. That's the one thing that will kind of put an asterisk on that, is like if Putintseva that we know can re-disrupt and play turns up, Anisimova is going to have a handful. If she doesn't, then Anisimova is going to find that a really easy first round. So it's all going to depend on which Putintseva we get. And then Kartal Ostapenko, as you said, like that is down to which Ostapenko turns up. Is this the one who could lose to anybody or the one who can beat anybody? So, and
very well put. Yeah,
agree with you. Like Ostapenko on grass is one of those things that I've been saying for years. If it all clicks, like suddenly she's unstoppable. I think grass in particular is that surface where that could happen. She's an Eastbourne champion. She's a Birmingham champion. I think she's won Eastbourne. Pretty sure she at least made the final there. And
let me ask you this, Nick. No, go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, I was going to say, I think that she's going to be one to watch, even if she's not in form. Carry on.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you. And there's another name here in this this section that I think we could say the same as Ostapenko in terms of if she catches fire. And actually, that's I picked her to go far in this tournament. Is Linda Noskova. Yeah, I think Noshkova's game is a good fit for grass, and Noskova is one of these players who can hit with pinpoint accuracy with great power, and she does that as well. I would put her in the top 5 in WTA, possibly for sure top 10 in terms of hitting with pinpoint accuracy. Despite the kind of power that she generates on the serve and on the ground strokes. So I went ahead and picked her actually to go further, to take out Paolini and to go all the way to the quarterfinals here, and then see what happens, who comes from the other side. But if Noskova ends up making it to the semifinals, I would not be that surprised. So she's actually my pick from this section of the draw.
Interesting choice. You know what? I've got a list of 6 contenders to get through, 7 if you include Ostapenko, but it's one of those, the data you kind of have to go with because it's Ostapenko. The data of results doesn't necessarily back it up.
Yes.
But Noskova is on that list, and I can see why, because like quarterfinals in Nottingham, semi-finals in Bad Homburg, narrowly lost to Jessica Pegula. So for me, I think Noskova's prospects are going to be how well she bounces back from that Pegula loss, because she did look like she had Pegula beat.
Yes, she could have won it in 2 sets. Actually, it was a skin tight match, just like you say. But then in the third set, okay, Pegula won fair and square. But the first 2 sets could have easily gone Noskova's way, and she did beat Vekic and Andreeva on the way to losing to Pegula. I have high hopes for Noskova in this tournament.
Yeah, I'm excited for Noskova. I think the other players I'm excited by in this section, apart from her and Ostapenko, Jasmine Paolini, former last year's finalist. She does seem to like playing on grass. It's Bad Homburg semi-final run in her. Amanda Anisimova, Queen's finalist. Do not count her out easily. Diana Schneider seems to really like it on grass. And let's not forget, Ons Jabeur can just turn it on at Wimbledon out of nowhere. So I can't really rule her out.
I mean, the section with Qinwen Zheng and Jabeur is very, very tough to pick. Qinwen Zheng, okay, good serve. I can't really comfortably pick her to go all the way here from this section, but just like you say, there's Ons Jabeur, and she's gonna play possibly the winner of Kartal and Ostapenko, and then there's Diana Schneider there, whom I also like her chances on grass. She moves well. Likes to take the ball early, can rush the opponent. These are all good assets to have on a surface like grass. And then you have, of course, Ostapenko. Then you got Naomi Osaka here, who's playing Talia Gibson first round. Who knows if Naomi Osaka can catch fire and then take out Qinwen Zheng, who, by the way, doesn't necessarily have an easy first round against Siniakova either. So we could just turn around in circles here and keep talking. But this is a really difficult section to pick out. It's nothing like the first quarter that we looked at if we wanted to pick out clear favorites to reach the quarterfinals.
It really isn't. And actually, I was going to say that's the fourth first round match that I've picked out is Siniakova Zheng, for the reason that Siniakova is great on grass, and she's played Zheng Qinwen twice on grass before and won both of them. I do think Zheng has made a step forward, and there's a question about Siniakova's fitness at the moment. But if all things being equal, that is not the matchup that Zheng wanted in that first round, if that's the case. But yeah, I agree with you. It's so hard to pick one. And I do feel like, if I'm going to pick a semi-finalist from this section, I'm kind of just picking a name at random, almost. It's I can't see. I really do like your Noskova pick, though. I really do like it. For me, it's that we know Noskova can kind of come and go a bit mentally, and I do wonder.
Correct. That's true.
If she comes out and plays a really good first round, and shows that she's put that Pegula loss behind her, great. I will believe. I'll go right. Yeah, I think Mert might be right here, on her making the semis. But
Nick, another thing that kind of pushed me in that direction also is I do like Linda Noskova's progress in her career over time. It's not one of these big jumps high and then maybe experience like a bit of a low, or not be used, or trying to get used to the environment of being on the high stage. But she's been kind of stepping up in her career, digesting it, marinating it, and then moving up a little bit more, and then doing well in big tournaments. And it's just a very solid and sound progress. And now I feel like she's reached a point in her career where she can make even the next step, the next step into perhaps doing extremely well in one of the slams, beating a couple of elite players, and establishing herself as a bona fide, top 15, top 10 player eventually.
I like it. Yeah, she's got a lot of potential. I know that. And she's still so young as well at 20. So, yeah, the progress that she's making is good. I think there are some people out there I know, like one or two people I've interacted with, who thought she should have made more progress by now. But I don't think that.
Yeah, I wouldn't agree with that. I think the progress she's making is neither too slow, neither too fast, nor too fast. And it's perfect for in my opinion, in terms of a player that over time slowly progresses into what her potential may be.
Okay, that's exciting. Okay, I'm going to have to sit and think about what I'm going to do for my semi-final pick, so we might come back
Well,
to that.
Nick, I mean, look, just to kind of muddy the waters a little bit more, you know, a name like Naomi Osaka, who's there, you know, she loses a tough one to Samsonova in Berlin, and then she goes and plays Bad Homburg and beats Danilovic first round, and then loses to Emma Navarro 6-4, 6-4. But you can't just look at those results and say, she's not going to make it far there. No, you know, she could catch fire and easily go advance. You know, it's just one example out of the many that you've already mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, she's not traditionally done that well at Wimbledon, but you're right.
Correct.
Osaka, when she catches fire, is pretty much unstoppable.
But wouldn't you say, Nick, even when she was on top of her game, when she was one of the elite players, wouldn't you say it was a bit surprising that she's never done that well at Wimbledon, considering her game style?
Yes, I agree. I've been a little bit bamboozled by that. But maybe she's never liked the movement on grass. It is a bit different trying to move on a hard court. So yeah, it's difficult to say. But yeah, I think you're right. I think that kind of sums up this section. It's full of players who, if they catch fire, are unstoppable.
Yes.
And if none of them catch fire, then anyone can make it, which is an interesting prospect there. I think we move on to quarter number 3, Mert.
Yes.
All right. So same again. First round matches that you like the look of in this quarter. Maybe you know, we might not have so many this time, but there are definitely some clear standout ones in my view. And I guess for me, it will be starting with the match that's going to open centre court on Tuesday, which is Rybakina and Alex Ayala, who just lost a heartbreaking Eastbourne final, deciding set tie break, loses, has 4 match points against Maya Joint in that tie break. Yeah, I think that one could be interesting based on Krejcikova's fitness versus Ayala's mentality and how she's bounced back from that.
Yes, correct. That was my first pick as far as an interesting first round too. And that's also my third one that I mentioned in the beginning, where a young up and coming hot player faces a seeded player, let alone last year the title holder. So I'm interested in seeing not necessarily if Ayala can upset Krejcikova, but how Ayala will handle playing Krejcikova, last year's title holder, in the first round at Wimbledon 2 or 3 days after coming from a week of many highs and many intense moments. And will she be able to recover? You know, this is a question that we ask even from experienced players. You know, we often discuss, you know, should they play before the week before a major? Should they not play? If they play and they go to the finals and win it, will they turn around and quickly and at another spot play first round couple of days later from the high that they may have experienced just 2 or 3 days ago in front of a full stadium possibly? And you know, we ask this from almost every player at every stage of their career. And here we have Ayala, who's perhaps at the very beginnings of her career, and she's facing this situation probably for the first time, and she happens to play against a super veteran, let's put it that way, someone who's super experienced with two slam titles and title holder. So let's see. You know, I know I'm curious to see what version of Krejcikova will have, because it's a complete question mark after what she did last year. I can't count her out in any ways. Even I don't care what she's done leading up to this tournament. But then again, she's facing another player who I'm even more interested in seeing how she will handle this situation.
Yeah, you're right. This is one of those matches like who's going to handle the occasion the best. And you know, there's Krejcikova's under some pressure because she's still in the early stages of her comeback as well. She seems to be taking things her stride. She seems to be absolutely loving being back on the grass, being back in the UK, and ready to defend her title. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. I think it'd be absolutely. I think it could be quite a fascinating encounter on centre court on Tuesday between those two. I think the only other two kind of real standout matches for me for this section are, well, one is, again, where is this player at versus a young up-and-comer. And the other one is maybe more of a noteworthy match in terms of one particular player. So I'll do that one first. That's Petra Kvitova against Emma Navarro. Kvitova is winding up her career. This will be her last Wimbledon. Horrible first-round draw for her in terms of hoping for some kind of run. Emma Navarro is looking confident on grass right now. I think Navarro is going to be the heavy favourite for that. Obviously, to see if Kvitova unlocks any of that nostalgia, and that confidence of playing on grass again, because she does love it. But results suggest possibly not. But I want to see how her last match kind of goes. And then the other match for me is, in terms of their fitness, Karolina Muchova, who was playing at Queen's with a one-handed backhand, and I thought was doing pretty well considering, was the only player who got close to beating Tatiana Maria in that tournament with a one-handed backhand, which is not natural, not how she usually plays. Against the
Berlin, I only saw highlights of that match. Did she play the whole match with one-handed backhand?
More or less, yeah. She won her first round with a one-handed backhand as well. That was her second match.
Yeah.
So
that's incredible. That's incredible. Wow. Okay, so I was going to ask you that anyway, but that's also that was my my second first round match that I jotted down as an interesting match. I personally am going to pick Xinyu Wang to upset Muchova here, but it's going to depend on what has Muchova recovered enough to hit some two-handed backhands, because her two-handed backhand is pretty good too. But that's also credit to Muchova's versatile game, correct? I mean, the fact that she has many tools in her box that she can use, that she can actually go to a one-handed backhand exclusively and still play close matches against top players. I'm not sure that many other players with two-handed backhands or a more dominant two-handed backhand can pull that off. So that's hats off to Muchova in that sense.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I was watching that. I was going, that is, I mean, I'm a ex-Federer fan, as in followed until he retired. So any player who's pulling off watching Muchova with that one-handed backhand is the closest the WTA will ever get to seeing a Federer type player on this surface. So it's not natural for her, but you're right. It's credit to her versatility. I really hope that she gets some wins with it. Let's see if she's able to hit that two-hander. I also think, maybe Wang peaked for a week, and Muchova could beat her in 3 sets. Muchova's been one of those players that I think for a long time. I thought when she debuted at Wimbledon, got a quarterfinal, then repeated that in her second attempt, that have we got a Wimbledon champion in waiting here potentially? Certainly her game.
That's a fair call. That's a fair call.
Suit grass a lot if she's healthy. The other thing to point out is, if you look at the pattern of the last 2 Wimbledon champions, they're Czech players who've just come back from injury.
That's true.
Fits that perfectly, especially since she also made a Grand Slam final in the same way as Vondrousova and Krejcikova did before, and it was Roland Garros. So Muchova to me is the ultimate kind of, I don't know if you could call it seeded dark horse. That's a perennial debate, but Muchova to me is always a player to watch whenever Wimbledon comes round, and this Wimbledon particularly so.
Yes, the one other first round matchup that I'll throw in there, it wasn't necessarily one of my picks, but I'm curious to see the Suzanne Lehmann Iva Jovic match.
Both I'm glad you got that as well.
Yeah. Okay. So there you go. I mean, these are, again, not many people may know about them, especially Suzanne Lehmann. I think they've heard about Iva Jovic recently, but only hardcore followers of tennis, such as you and I, who follow week in and week out, would know these names. I don't think casual followers would, but these are 2 names that are on the up and rise, and have done well for their careers in the last 12 months. And I would like to see which one of them wins here, more because I want to see how they do in the winner, how the winner does in the next round, right? You got 2 hot players here playing each other, 2 players who have done well, who are at the top of their career, feeling good. They get to play each other. The winner of that match will continue to feel good or even better, haven't passed the round in a major. And now they're going to, on their second match at a tournament, which is not the same as the first match, they get to play most likely Alexandrova, who's my pick, by the way, to advance it from that section. But again, that could be a dangerous second round matchup for a seeded player to play against a hot player coming in who has already passed the first round, who's got that jitters in the back.
Yeah, I think you've kind of opened up two lines of talk conversation here. So I do want to go to favourites in a second. Just want to get you your thoughts on Eva Jovic as a prospect, and she's a topic of conversation whenever when I bring it up, because I watched her in the final. I went to the Ilkley 125K final in person as a fan, and first of all, she handled that match absolutely brilliantly. She took apart a very competent grass court player in Rebecca Marino. But I was also very impressed by the power that she has despite her size, because she was shorter than I expected when watching her in person. And I think, okay, if she could pack a punch as a 17-year-old, what can she do as she develops physically and in terms of her game? So I'm kind of excited by what she can do.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think her serve needs a little bit more work. Her second serve, I'd say, but she's able to hit shots from all parts of the courts to any other part of the court on the other side of the net. A lot of players have favorite shots, and not that she doesn't have her favorite shots. I'm sure she does, but she doesn't necessarily tries to stick with them no matter what. Or on important points, she does come up with shots that are not necessarily following her regular patterns. And I do like her footwork on grass. I think she can do well. And also another thing too is, she's super young and she's just now coming up to the big stage. And I feel like with players like this, for a little while, they do really well before they kind of come to the realization of what they've accomplished. And I think she's in that run right here where she feels like she can knock down a mountain, even if it faces her. So this is why, I'd be curious to see how, and she came through qualifying, by the way, which means she has 3 matches in her pocket. Now, of course, qualifying is not at the same spot as the main draw at Wimbledon, but nonetheless, she's match ready to play against Susan Lamens. And Lamens is not a slouch by any means. That's a tough first round, but the winner of that match will go into the second round feeling really good, facing one of the seeded players. And I would not want to be in the winner of Alexandrova and Priscilla Hahn here, and I'm going to predict that Alexandrova is going to win that. I would not want to be in Alexandrova's spot facing one of those 2 prospects in the second round. I would have preferred facing them in the first round, in their first match. But once they get that first match jitters off their back and they won a match and they're in the second round, they already have a good run in their career over the last few months. This is a very dangerous match.
I will say I was impressed by Hahn's qualifying run because she beat Mboko in her last match, saving match points.
Yes. Yes.
And
how many 6 match points? I heard I didn't get to watch that, but that's an incredible run. I'm a big fan of Priscilla Hahn, by the way, and she does what she seems to do well on every surface, and she's one of these consistent players who's constantly there. She doesn't have down periods of a long time, and she stays very solid. She plays a lot of tournaments too. She puts some mileage on the tournament motor.
Yeah. But let's go to the favourites conversation, because you did allude to that with Alexandrova earlier. I've got 6 players that you could say are favourite. Again, this section of the draw is like the previous one, where there's just no clear favourite. It's pretty open. Everyone's kind of got about even chance, but maybe for different reasons. You've got Barbora Krejcikova and Karolina Mukova, who are there's a lot of question marks about their fitness at the moment, but we know how good they are on grass. Yes. You've got Jessica Pegula and Mira Andreeva as the top seeds. Pegula is the Bad Homburg champion. Beat Iga Swiatek in the final, what I thought was a very impressive match from both players. I thought it was a pretty high quality encounter. I think Pegula won because she took her chances late in the set, in both sets. That one could have gone 3 very easily, and did a very good job of soaking up Iga, kind of throwing everything at her. Alexandrova's on my list as well. Alexandrova, who I got into a argument with about, I didn't get into an argument with Alexandrova, but I ended up arguing with several people on Twitter because I basically said Alexandrova is really good on grass, and everyone said she's only been past round two of Wimbledon once. What are you talking about?
No. She's a good player on grass. I'm on your side on that argument. Yes.
I called her a grass specialist, which might have been an exaggeration, but
pretty close.
Specialist.
Pretty close. I think you're on point. I think you have a valid point.
Yeah. And the other one, Emma Navarro, who has just reached the quarterfinals in Queens and Bad Homburg. Was it?
Yes.
Yeah. She's regularly winning matches on grass, and I think is very dangerous in this section. So yeah, picking from those, and maybe you've got a few other names to throw in. Oh, Tatiana Maria, the Queen's champion, is in there.
Yes, she's there too. That's right.
Could throw her in as like a kind of a wild card in the mix there. Albeit she didn't quite live up to that in Bad Homburg. She lost to Fernandez quite handily after beating her quite handily at Queens. But yeah, talk me your thoughts on kind of the favourites of the section, Matt.
And you would easily put, or both, I guess, would put Bencic and Muhova in one of the contenders if we knew that they were 100% healthy, right?
Yes.
I mean, so this is again a loaded section, just like the previous one that we looked at. I got Navarro Krejcikova versus Andreeva Frech. I do think Frech has a chance to beat Andreeva here. Andreeva's first two rounds, in my opinion, she'll get through them. But Frech will be a dangerous opponent. In fact, I think Frech beat her in one of the tournaments here recently, in one of the grass court tournaments. So that'll be a tough opponent for Andreeva to get through. But if Navarro, Krejcikova, and Andreeva and Frech make it that far, and say Krejcikova ends up playing fairly well, looking pretty good in those first couple of rounds, all the way leading up to round of 16, I give the edge to Krejcikova if she makes it that far. I mean, we'll know a lot more about her, 5 or 6 days later that we cannot know now and talk about. So I'm still picking here in this, for this whole section here. I'm still going to go with Alexandrova, and Pegula. What do you think?
To make the quarters.
No, not to make the quarters, because out of Alexandrova and Pegula, only one of them can make the quarters.
Okay, so one.
So I'm picking.
Okay, so I get what you mean. It's between Krejcikova and either Frech or Andreeva to get the quarters, and then it's between Pegula and Alexandrova to make the quarters.
Yes, exactly. But I do think, though, Nick, here in this case, although we said this is another complicated section and we can come up with so many names, I do think here Pegula is half a step ahead of everybody else in terms of making the semifinal prospect.
Yeah, but, and that Bad Homburg result does help.
It does change a lot. Yes.
Yeah, I would agree. Like, she's definitely the one coming in with the best form of the section, and is. And notice.
I'm sorry. Notice we didn't even mention Magda Linette here, who's another good name to who can do well on grass.
Yeah, she's definitely another potential wild card to throw in there. Does like it on the surface. Yeah, there's a lot of potential names, and okay. So you're leaning towards Pegula being the slight favorite to make it through to the semis here overall.
Yes, just a very slight favorite. One last comment about Petra Kvitova. One of my favorite players in the last 15 years. I loved watching her when she was on top of her game. I just feel like when these players announce their retirement and they still go on a one last run, I'm not sure if their motivation level is as high as had they not announced their retirement. You see, that's the only question mark in my mind. But otherwise, I'm just as curious as you are what kind of Kvitova we'll see, because I maintained for many years, even leading up to 2019, 2020, that Kvitova's best version could play with anybody on the tour and could beat anybody on the tour and could still win a slam. Now, of course, not at this point, but I'm a big fan of her. I just don't know if she'll have a. I don't know. We'll see. I hope not.
Angie Kerber was pretty motivated at the Olympics.
That's true. That's true.
Maybe even won the thing if she'd gone. Like, she'd beaten Zheng in that crazy quarterfinal that ended up being one of the matches of the year.
And didn't
so
Panetta, Flavia Panetta,
Yeah.
plan? Although she didn't announce it, but she did plan her retirement at the end of the year, where she won U.S. Open.
Yeah.
She said something to that effect too. So
Yeah. So I think she announced it in her winner's speech at the USA. Was like, I was planning on retiring, so this is great.
yes,
So yeah, Kvitova is going to be one of the stories of Tuesday, I think, against Navarro, regardless of whether she wins or loses. I'm interested to see which court they put her on. I would imagine that's going to be that's going to be court 2 lowest, I would think. But I would imagine
yes, it would be a massive. It would be a massive point of conversation if she were to be put on the court lower than number 2. Let's put it that way.
Although if she is, I am heading straight to that match.
Yes, yes.
If I'm on the ground
Me
pass.
too.
So I'm planning on going to Wimbledon on that Tuesday. So I've got court 2 tickets. So
all right, I'm very jealous.
So
I love watching outside courts in the first half, and then in the first week of the tournament, going to the outside courts.
It's the best ticket you can get in like any tournament. Get an outside court ticket. The bigger the tournament, the better.
Yes.
Such great value for money, particularly at Wimbledon as well. Bit of a tangent, right? Final quarter number 4, and again, before we kind of look at kind of future stuff, let's look at our first rounds that we like from this section. And I think for me, and I'm interested to see if you think the same thing, is there's one standout first round with a couple of other ones in there that could be quite interesting.
Okay, what's your standout one? Could it be the same as mine? I don't think so, though. But go ahead.
Diana Yastremska against Coco Gauff.
Okay, no, that's not mine. But I totally agree with you. I can totally see why you would pick that one. It is a it's a fascinating match-up for the first round.
That's a first round potential upset there, because Yastremska bageled Gauff in Madrid. Loves playing on grass. Whilst I think Gauff is underrated on grass, it is clear that her game is not at its most effective on the surface. She hasn't won any matches. She's 0 for 1 for grass this year. Bit of a nightmare opener. The only thing that might save her is how bad is Yastremska's grass allergy, which apparently she has. She revealed that in Nottingham.
Yeah,
she'll make the final. But yeah, that's for me. Okay, I would still kind of, it's a messy match, Gauff winning that one, but I think that could be a sort of an upset alert there.
Yes. The one that interests me the most, the first round matchup in this section here, is again my 4th pick as one of these seeded players versus an up and coming star, and that's Maya Joint versus Samsonova.
Oh yeah.
So again, same situation as Iala. I'm just interested to see, not that I necessarily expect an upset here, although it could happen, but I'm interested to see how Maya Joint handles playing a first round against the seeded player. So she'll be, in my opinion, Samsonova will be the heavy favorite. After 2 or 3 days after experiencing the high that she has experienced, over the last week. So let's see the sound. I know I sound like a broken record, but there are 4 of these matchups in the draw, and this was the 4th one here. So again, I'm going to be watching that one for sure.
Yeah, I think that is an interesting narrative. Maya Joint, Eastbourne champion, won that incredibly tight final. Samsonova is probably in form, at least what form looks like for Samsonova, in terms of she's regularly winning matches. Like I've seen her sit in a similar place in like 2023, make the semi. I think it was the quarters of the semis in Berlin. So she's got some good grass results under her belt. Maya Joint obviously won Rabat, which is the week before the French, and then immediately went out first round. So it is a tough turnaround. Let's see.
That's a good point you just made there. Yep.
Yeah. So let's hear what Maya learned from that last time and see what she does this time. This is not as long a trip from Rabat to from Eastbourne to London as it is from Rabat to Paris.
That's true.
But Samsonova I think could be quite tough, but we know how streaky she can be as well. So it's not an unwinnable first round match. That
is a tough first round, but I do have, though, despite saying all that, I do have Samsonova for me reaching round of 16s to face Gauff. And going back to your comments about Gauff and Yastremska, I totally see what you're saying, but I'm looking at Gauff's section here, and this, yes, first round is a tough one against Yastremska, but she is 3-0 against her. So she has beaten her 3 times before. And let's see how this turns out. But it is a massive first round. But even if she does make it past that, everybody in her section, she's 0-1 versus Azarenka. She lost her the only time that they played against each other, but this was back in 2022. There's a Samsonova in her section, in Goff's section. She's 3-0 against Samsonova. She's 0-3 versus Kasatkina, but all before 2022. And can Kasatkina even make it that far? Her grass court season has been one to forget.
Kasatkina is 0 for 3 on grass so far.
Yeah, exactly. So, that would be, and she's 3-2 versus Kenin. Yes, she did lose to her in 2023 at Wimbledon, but this year they played twice, and Goff beat her handily both times, one of them being a double bagel. So I actually think,
Coco could make
Yastremska
quarterfinals for the first time.
I'm sorry?
So you're backing Coco to make quarterfinals for the first time in her career.
I am because she's made it to the 4th round, I think, twice, to the second week of the tournament, and I believe one of them was very early in her career, where she had that fabulous match against Polona Herzog, coming back from match point down. But I do have her going that far. Yes, only because I actually think she has a favorable draw. She's got players on her side that she can handle, and she can go all the way to the quarterfinals here. Yes,
I can see why. Yeah, I can see why. I think Samsonova could be dangerous if she gets going. I will say that. I know she's got a favourable matchup with Goff, but they've not played on. Well, Goff's got a favourable matchup with Samsonova, I should say, but Samsonova's not played her in grass yet. That's the thing. And Samsonova is kind of in form right now, as I said. So that I would think I could see that being dangerous. But you're right in terms of like what we would expect. Yeah, this is a good section for Goff. Kenin might even make it because she's got Taylor Townsend in round 1, which is one of the first round matches that I've circled, and that's going to be that fun fight. There's a couple of other ones in there that I think could be fun fights. Maria Sakkari against Anna Blenkova has just got messy, fun match all over it. And
yes.
Clara Towson and Heather Watson, we know how much of a fighter Heather Watson is, and Clara Towson's been okay since that Dubai final, but it's not necessarily her season momentum's kind of ran out a bit after what was a very, very good start.
Yes,
dangerous on grass. So,
but then we have that little upper section, don't we? Like we got facing Goff in the quarterfinals would be that section with Iga Swiatek and Elena Rybakina. And again, that I said 2 of my top 4 favorites to win the tournament were in the very the first section, the first quarters. And here are my 2 others. I have Swiatek and Rybakina completing my top 4, and one of them is not even going to make it to the quarterfinals at best. Because they'll end up playing each other in the round of 16s if they both win their first 3 rounds. And their first 3 rounds are not going to go easy either. Now, of course, logic to me would say that if we get Rybakina's best version here, Rybakina should advance because she's on grass courts. I would put Rybakina ahead of Swiatek still at this point, assuming that they both have their top play on display. The one glaring problem for Swiatek here on grass for me is that because of her grip on the forehand, the extreme grip on the forehand, people that rush flat hard balls to her forehand can collect some errors. Now, I'm not one of these people who claimed over the years that Swiatek is just no good on grass. She cannot do well. No, I do believe that she can do very well on grass. In fact, she can go ahead and even win the tournament. Anybody with great footwork, and not only great footwork in reaching to the balls, but I'm talking great footwork also moving in place, getting into position on balls that are coming fast to you, moving your feet around, small steps. Simona Halep was a master at that. She could do that very well, for example. From past players, Arantxa Sanchez Vicario was another one that did that really well. Martina Hingis. We can go on and on and on. But Swiatek does this really well. The only thing is, the time that it takes for her to take her forehand back and hit fourth and adjust her grip sometimes can be a liability against a couple of elite players, not everybody, but against a couple of elite players. And one of them is Rybakina. So again, if we get the best version of Rybakina, that's a really tough section for Iga Swiatek to come out of. But if Swiatek makes it to the round of 16s and loses to that version of Rybakina, for me, it's not necessarily a bad loss.
No.
So I would still stay on the Swiatek bandwagon in terms of her doing well in the future at Wimbledon.
I don't disagree with anything you've said there, Matt. Like, for me, Rybakina and Swiatek are two of the main title contenders. They're 2 and 4 in my power ranking. And yeah, it's just unfortunate for both of them that they're going to be potentially drawn to meet in the 4th round. I agree with you that your Rybakina on this surface would be the favourite if they were to play. Just because it just suits her so much. I think she's the favourite against pretty much anyone in the world, with except even maybe Sabalenka, depending on the day, on the surface, depending on how she is. But obviously, Sabalenka's had the better recent results and won their last match.
Nick, the only thing that I want to add here, and I didn't realize this, but I was looking at this, I don't know, about a week ago or 4 days ago or something, just looking at the head-to-head of Swiatek and Rybakina. Rybakina is 2-1 versus Swiatek on clay, which is really weird, and she's 2-4 on hard courts.
It's a weird rivalry.
To me, that's the epitome of an anomaly. I feel like it should be the opposite. I feel like it.
I will say that I'm wondering if that includes the match in Rome where Swiatek retired.
Well, yeah, it should be right there. Look at it and we'll see. But
I think it does include that.
I don't think it does, actually.
Does it not? Well, also the other match I was.
Oh no, it does. Is that a retirement right there? Yes, it does include that. Yes.
Which I think we never knew. Like, Swiatek could still have won that match had she.
Okay, so it could have been 1 and 2 instead of 2 and 1 on clay.
And then the other one that Rybakina won was in Stuttgart, which is very different clay conditions.
That's true.
So there's asterisks there. And then if we look at their rivalry outside of that, I think they've played in Doha a couple of times, and that's slow hard. So they seem to play each other kind of outside their ideal scenarios.
Yes. And they've never played on grass. Am I correct?
No.
Yeah, they've never played on grass.
Yeah. So you would expect Rybakina to be the favourite there, but yeah, I think Swiatek's made some strides on grass. I liked how she looked in Bad Homburg. Like, she looked like she had time to hit through the ball. Maybe made a few unforced errors in the first set against Pegula. Other than that, I think it was just Pegula stood up to her and gave herself a chance in that match. She beat Alexandrova in straights, and Alexandrova's kind of one of those players who, in theory, should be able to hit flat to her forehand, as you described. And again, Alexandrova was a bit streaky, but that didn't really happen. So I think Swiatek has made some adjustments, but Rybakina is a very different prospect. The other thing I would say that should be a worry for Iga is potential round 3 versus Danielle Collins.
Yes, I was going to ask you that next. Do you have anyone that can possibly upset that Swiatek Rybakina party?
Yeah. But that's obviously going to depend on how Collins deals with her first couple of rounds, because she's got Osorio, which she should win, and then she's got either Erdjovic or Kostyuk. Kostyuk has had a rough, she's barely had a grass court warm-up. She was struggling to get into tournaments because she was too low to be ranked in the 500 and too high to be ranked in the 250. It was ridiculous. So could be a bit rusty on grass, but I also would still think that she's got a chance of getting through that section. Especially with
Nick, let me ask you this. Would you say, for example, one of the, every tournament or every Wimbledon or even every other major usually has one player going on a shocking run, whether it's third round or quarterfinals or semifinals, etc. Would you call Danielle Collins possibly coming out of here, beating Swiatek and then facing Rybakina a shocking run or not? Or would she have to beat Rybakina also to make it a shocking run?
I think she had to beat Rybakina as well. I think
But do you see that as zero possibility, or could that actually happen? Is there more than 1% chance of possibility of that?
I think there's definitely more than 1% chance of possibility. I mean, Carl doesn't have great form right now, but we know how her reputation is, and that matters.
Yes.
So,
and she's fearless. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you on that. I was just curious to see if you thought the same as or similar to what I thought.
I mean, the trouble is that like those less than 1% chances of that happening, that's not really, they don't like, they do exist in the Wimbledon draw, but like they would be the craziest possible stories. We're looking at the lowest Boston situation.
Yes, it would be crazy and shocking at the same time. Yeah.
Okay. I think, is there anything else you want to say about the draw before we maybe get into a little bit of predictions territory now, Mert?
No, I think we've covered just about all the nitty-gritty stuff.
All right, nitty-gritty. All right, so let's see if I can remember what you've said so far. So your kind of semi-final setup so far, you've got Sabalenka or Keys against Linda Noskova in the first semi-final, and then the second semi-final being most likely Jessica Pegula against, I'm going to guess, Elena Rybakina?
Yes. No, Jessica Pegula is wait, Pegula is not in the same section as Rybakina.
No, this would be a semi-final.
Yeah. Okay. No, you're calling the semi-final. Yes. Pegula, Rybakina would be my call. Yes.
Yeah. Do you want to make a call on whether it's going to be Sabalenka or Keys in the semi-finals?
I'm gonna go with I'm gonna go with Sabalenka because I believe she has a 50.2% chance versus 49.8 of Keys.
Yeah, that's going to be the match of the quarterfinals if it happens.
So yes, to give an answer, I'll go with Sabalenka there.
Okay, I like it. Yeah, for me, it's pretty tough. I think I'm going to go a little bit contrary to you a little bit, not to be deliberate, but because I think I think Wimbledon, you need to pick, if you're going to make predictions, you just go with the theme of go for the most surprising ones you can think of. And I'm going to say semi-final one is going to be I'm going to put Madison Keys in there.
Okay.
I think she's the ultimate kind of outside of Sabalenka and Rybakina, because everyone's obsessed with those two at the minute. Then my semi-final pick, just because like that section is so crazily open, I'm going to say that she's going to play Diana Schneider in the second semi-final, and then in the first semi-final, and then the second semi-final I think is going to be between. I think it's going to be between Emma Navarro and Elena Rybakina.
Very good, very solid picks.
I like Navarro.
It's very possible. Yes. We both pick, I think, a little bit of an outsider to make the semifinal in the second, in the bottom half of the top draw. You picked Schneider, and I picked Noskova, but I think the other three are very reasonable picks from both your side and my side, and let's see how it turns out. Yes, this will be we could be sitting here, Nick, in about 5 or 6 days, and wondering if there's a way to delete this section of this recording.
Nothing. Look. I'm used to putting out daft picks, and
Yeah, me too.
Horribly wrong. I think what was it? I can't remember what I picked to win. It was like a Masters tournament, and they crashed right out the tournament first round. I do remember picking Simona Halep to win the 2022 US Open, and that was a bit of a disaster.
Yeah.
And I think I picked Rybakina to win Miami this year.
Well, okay, but I've done many of those too. I'm not going to mention them one by one, but you're not alone by any means.
I'm more putting this out there so nobody places a bet based on what I've said, and then comes me after me. So I said, no, you do really have a terrible track record.
Yes, me too.
But I did get Goff winning the French. I will pride myself in doing that.
Yeah, I only did that after the semifinals were determined. So I certainly didn't pick her in the very beginning. So you're a step ahead on that one.
I did pre-tournament. So let me guess then, based on what we said, are you going for a Sabalenka Rybakina final? And out of the two of them, which is the favourite? Because whichever you pick as being the favourite for Wimbledon out of those two, and let's face it, most people would struggle to argue with one of those two being the ultimate favourite. It feels like it's Sabalenka with like the results and the grass court, like the results and the recent history, versus Rybakina with her overall potential on grass, and which one you pick is going to be based on which you value the most.
I think I'm going to go to answer your question directly. I will have a caveat to that, though. But to answer your question directly, in that setup that you just mentioned, I'm going to go with Rybakina as the ultimate winner on grass, because I do think that Rybakina is the closest thing we have on the WTA side among the elites to a fabulous grass court player. Let's put it that way. And so I'm picking Rybakina. But I will say this, Nick. If Noskova really does make it to the semifinals, I'm sticking with her.
Oh,
yes,
you think Noskova to win the title.
If she makes it to the semifinals, yes, I will feel strongly that she has a chance to pull the ultimate upset here.
Wimbledon does like its breakthrough checks. That seems to be what's happening the last few years.
It's a long shot. It's a long shot. I would not recommend anybody to, again, we're not talking. I don't talk whatsoever about betting. But yeah, if she makes it to the semifinals, I'm going to stick with her.
I like it. Yeah, I think it's tough. So here's the thing. So on the Sabalenka Rybakina thing, I think if they were to play in the final, I would back Rybakina, because Rybakina has never lost to Sabalenka in straight sets. So I will always give Rybakina a chance at any time they play. And on grass, I agree with you. It switches to her. And I think she was somewhat unfortunate to lose the Berlin quarterfinal that they played.
Yes, I did not get to see that, unfortunately, but I heard that the third set was some of the best tennis that we've seen this year. Yeah,
it was incredible. It was such a good match, and Rybakina had 4 match points at 6-2 in the deciding set tiebreak. Lost the first one on a dead net court from Sabalenka. 2 great Sabalenka.
You're kidding me? That net court? Okay, wow.
Dead net court favoring Sabalenka, got it to 6-3. Sabalenka then hit 2 incredible shots. I can't remember exactly what they were, but I do remember her basically taking control and winning the next 2 match points. And then Rybakina concedes it with 3 consecutive errors.
Yeah. Wow.
So that would be it. So, but I think it was a little of unfortunateness there, / Sabalenka being a brilliant when she needed to be. But I actually, again, with the theme of Wimbledon being a little bit unexpected, but being me, I can't not have a little bit of prior data in there to go for it. I am going to say that I am actually going to back Madison Keys to be the Wimbledon champion at the end of this.
Okay.
I think she's proving herself to maybe be the best slam player this year, potentially.
Yes.
And that would add a very different complexion on the season if we walk away suddenly with Madison Keys with 2 Grand Slam trophies. It's very close between her, Sabalenka, and Rybakina for me. They're almost tied. But
no, it's a very reasonable pick. Madison Keys is a very reasonable pick.
Yeah, but I'm going for chaos. As much chaos as I will dare to go for. You going for Noskova, you are a braver man than I. Provided.
Yeah, I think I'm the one going for chaos in that case rather than you. But again, Noskova would have to make it to the semifinals for me to be really. I don't know if she'll face Sabalenka, but at that point, I'm not getting off the Noskova horse. But Sabalenka and Rybakina would be the more reasonable final, or even Madison Keys versus Rybakina would be the more reasonable final to pick. Yeah.
Watch Iga Swiatek beat Rybakina on grass. And
yes.
Everyone's talking about her being like, oh, could she win this?
yes. But again, I mean, it's just a really unfortunate draw that Swiatek and Rybakina are to face each other so early in the tournament. Of course, this is assuming that they both make it that far in the round of 16s. That's just so early.
But yeah, that will be I think that's going to be the highlight match of the 4th round if it happens. And yeah, I think I might end up changing my tune if Swiatek beat Rybakina, because then I'd be like, oh, maybe. But then it'd depend if Keys and Sabalenka were still in the draw.
Yeah, that's another thing too, Nick. I mean, we say a lot of things now, but watching first couple of rounds tell you a lot about the form of the players or how they perform, in the beginning of the tournament, and if they're physically fit or not. And then a lot of things can change. So yeah, I agree with you.
All right, I think we've thoroughly dissected the draw and then basically gone with, oh, who knows how it's all going to work out. That seems to be the overall theme of this.
That's our theme.
So many players. So I'm looking forward to wrapping all this up 2 weeks from now when we do the WTA Weekly show after Wimbledon. and congratulating Karolina Muchova on her title.
There you go. There you go. With a one-handed backhand. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, I think everyone would fall in love with her if that, all the British fans would fall in love with her if that happened. So, Mert, you've been brilliant. Thank you for doing this with me. It was so much fun. And I'm looking forward to seeing how everything plays out and hearing what you have to say throughout the tournament as well.
Great. Always looking forward to my next time with you guys too also. Thank you.
Fantastic. Yeah, so plenty to look forward to on the channel. Wimbledon starts tomorrow. We are going to be doing plenty of live watch-alongs. And of course, it's going to be the Last Ball Drops show is back every evening up until the end of the fourth round, where a couple of us will kind of wrap up all the day's action. It's honestly, I'm going to say this now, and I'm not just saying this because I'm a contributor to the channel. It is the best post-slam wrap-up podcast, daily podcast out there. Go check it out, live or on catch-up. I always do. It's brilliant. And I hope to be on one or two of them myself. Thanks, everyone, for watching. It's been a great episode with you all. I'll see you soon. In the meantime, take care and keep talking tennis.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.